The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Hana Chen rose from Earth's seat. Around her, representatives from 200 civilizations shifted uncomfortably. They knew what was coming. The Kelrath Union requests aid against the Kryn Dominion's invasion fleet. The Council Arbiter announced, his four eyes avoiding the Kelrath delegate's desperate gaze. We open the floor for denied. The Vraxian Commerce Guild spoke first, as always. The Kelrath hold no strategic value. Their 17 worlds produce nothing we need. Denied. The Thaylen sovereignty's vote echoed through the chamber. We will not provoke the Kryn over sentiment. One by one, the great powers of the galaxy refused. The Kelrath delegate, an elderly female named Mira, stood trembling as each rejection landed like a physical blow. 52 votes, 52 refusals. Hana watched it all with eyes that had seen this pattern before. She was old now, her hair silver, but her memory was sharp. She remembered the stories her grandmother told. Stories of a different council session, half a century ago. Back then, humanity had just developed faster than light travel. Earth's ships were clumsy, its weapons primitive, its people naive to galactic politics. The predator species had circled immediately, seeing easy prey, forced labor contracts, territorial leasing agreements, technology exchanges that were little more than theft. The Council had watched with calculated indifference as humanity nearly signed away its future. Then one voice had spoken, these terms violate the covenant of emerging species. Mira had been young then, a junior delegate. Her objection had been immediate and fierce. The Kelrath Union will not stand silent while exploitation is wrapped in legal language. The Kelrath had no military might, no economic leverage, but they had something the predators hadn't expected: moral courage. They'd sponsored humanity's petition for protected status, sheltered Earth's early colonies under their own defensive pacts, given freely what others wanted to sell at crippling cost. They'd asked nothing in return. Humanity remembers, Hana said quietly into the Council's silence. The Arbiter blinked. The vote is concluded, Ambassador Chen. Earth's response is not, humanity remembers, Hana repeated, louder now. She turned to face Mira directly. 50 years ago, when we were weak and alone, you stood for us. You asked nothing, expected nothing. You simply did what was right. Around the chamber, whispers began, some confused, some worried. Hana's voice carried the weight of steel wrapped in silk. The Kelrath Union saved us from predators wearing the mask of civilization. Today we return that favor. Ambassador, the Vraxian delegate interrupted with barely concealed contempt. Earth has 73 colony worlds and a modest defense fleet. The Kryn field 3,000 warships. Your posturing helps no one. Hana smiled. It was not a pleasant expression, you're right. Earth's registered defense fleet numbers only 400 vessels. Quite modest. She paused, letting the word hang. But you see, the Kelrath taught us something valuable 50 years ago. They taught us the difference between what you show the galaxy and what you keep for the people who matter. She touched her communicator. Authorization Chen Alpha 7. Recall protocol initiated. Across the chamber, holographic displays flickered to life, showing real-time stellar tracking data. Every human ship in known space and merchant vessels, research stations, diplomatic transports had simultaneously changed course. All of them were heading back to Sol. What is this? The Arbiter demanded. Humanity is coming home, Hana said simply. Every human, every ship. We're pulling back to our territory. Confusion rippled through the Council. The Thaylen delegate actually laughed. You're abandoning your allies to fortress in your own space? So much for your grand gesture, Ambassador. Abandoning. Hana's eyes were cold. No, we're simply ensuring our friends have room to work. She turned back to Mira, whose expression had shifted from despair to something else. Recognition. Hope. Delegate Mira. The Kelrath extended their hand to humanity when we had nothing to offer in return. Today, Earth extends its hand to you. Not just our hand. She paused and her smile grew sharper. Our entire arm. Ambassador Chen, the Vraxian pressed, you cannot possibly. We made a promise 50 years ago, Hana continued, ignoring the interruption. A promise that humanity keeps its debts. That we protect those who protected us. The galaxy is about to learn what it means when Earth remembers a kindness. She looked around the chamber at the 200 civilizations who had turned away from the Kelrath. Most still looked confused. A few, the older delegates who remembered humanity's emergence, were beginning to understand. For 50 years we've been the galaxy's merchants, its explorers, its diplomats. We've smiled and traded and built goodwill. Hana's voice dropped to something that made the temperature in the room seem to fall. But before all that, we were survivors. And survivors never forget who stood with them in the dark. The Arbiter's translator struggled with her next words, as if the concept itself was difficult to render in galactic common. Delegate Mira, Earth formally invokes the Accord of Reciprocal Defense. What was done for us will be done for you. The Kryn want war. Hana's voice was gentle now, almost sad. Then they'll learn what happens when you threaten humanity's friends. Mira's voice was barely a whisper. Your registered fleet cannot stand against 3,000 Kryn warships. Our registered fleet, Hana agreed. Tell me, Delegate Mira, did you ever wonder why humanity agreed so readily to the Council's military limitation treaties? Why we kept our defensive forces at levels that seemed almost reckless for a species as paranoid as ours? The old Kelrath's eyes widened. We learned from you, Hana said softly. Show them what they expect to see. Keep what matters hidden. Protect what you love. She pressed another command on her communicator. New data flooded the displays. Across human space on worlds thought to be agricultural colonies, under the ice of Europa, in the dark reaches beyond Neptune's orbit, massive doors were opening, doors that had been sealed for 50 years. The galaxy limited our defensive fleet, Hana said into the stunned silence. It said nothing about what we kept in reserve, what we promised never to wake unless someone threatened our pack. On the displays, ship signatures began appearing. Hundreds, thousands, fleet elements that shouldn't exist, emerging from hiding places scattered across human territory. The Kelrath protected us when we were cubs, Hana Chen said quietly. Now they'll see what their compassion bought them. Not a debtor, but a guardian. She looked directly at the Vraxian delegate whose contempt had transformed into something approaching fear. Tell the Kryn Dominion that humanity is coming. And we're not interested in their surrender. The Kryn Dominion received Earth's declaration with laughter. War Chancellor Throck reviewed the intelligence reports in his command sphere, mandibles clicking in amusement. Around him, his senior officers shared his mirth. Humanity, those soft, emotional primates who'd spent 50 years playing merchant and peacemaker, thought they could challenge the Dominion? 400 registered vessels, Throck's intelligence officer reported. Mostly light cruisers and frigates. Their flagship is 70 years old. Ambassador Chen's speech was impressive theater, but the mathematics are simple. We outnumber them 7-1. 8-1, another officer corrected. Their recall order means they're abandoning defensive positions, consolidating. The act of a species preparing to turtle behind their own borders. Throck settled deeper into his command throne. The Kryn had conquered 47 civilizations over 3 centuries. They knew the patterns of capitulation. Humanity was cutting its losses, sacrificing the Kelrath to avoid the Dominion's attention. Smart, actually. Cowardly, but smart. Maintain our advance into Kelrath space, he ordered. Humanity has shown wisdom. We'll allow them to watch from safety, as we demonstrate what happens to those who resist Dominion expansion. The transmission ended. Throck returned his attention to the holographic display showing the Kelrath Union's 17 worlds. Defenseless, rich with resources, ready for integration. It would take 3 weeks to complete the conquest. Maybe 4 if the Kelrath proved stubborn. He would be proven catastrophically wrong. Aboard the UES Remembrance, Admiral Marcus Webb watched the tactical display with the patience of a man who'd waited half a century for this moment. His flagship hung in high orbit above Luna, utterly still. Around it, the recalled elements of Earth's registered defense fleet were assembling. 400 ships, just as the Kryn intelligence had counted. Visible, expected, harmless. Marcus was 73 years old. He'd been a young officer during humanity's first contact, had witnessed the predators circling, had watched Delegate Mira stand alone against the Council's calculated cruelty. He'd also been present when Earth's military leadership made a decision that the galaxy would only now understand. Status report, he said quietly. His operations officer, Commander Sarah Chen, Hana's granddaughter, pulled up the display. All recall elements accounted for, Admiral. The decoy fleet is in position. And the real fleet? Sarah's smile was sharp. Waking up. On the tactical display, new signatures began appearing. Not near Luna, not anywhere the galaxy was watching. Deep beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean, the Mariana facility completed its 30-day unsealing process. Pressure doors that had remained closed since their construction opened, and water flooded out of massive hangar bays. 37 dreadnoughts, each one 4 times the size of humanity's largest registered warship, began their ascent toward the surface. Under Europa's ice sheet, similar doors opened. The Cold War with the Jovian corporate sectors had never happened. It had been an excuse. An explanation for why humanity needed industrial facilities in the outer system. Facilities that just happened to have military-grade foundries and sealed dry docks. 62 heavy carriers emerged from Jupiter's moon, their fighter bays loaded with craft the Council had never seen. On the dark side of Luna itself, hidden in plain sight beneath civilian mining operations, the Luna Defense Array came online. Point defense platforms, missile batteries, railgun emplacements that could hit targets 3 light minutes away. But the largest revelation came from humanity's agricultural colony worlds. 17 planets that supposedly fed Earth's growing population. 17 worlds that just happened to have unusually large distribution centers and transport hubs. The doors opened. From New Harvest alone, 300 warships emerged. From Terra Verde, 200 more. From Abundance, Plenty, Providence, and a dozen others, humanity's hidden arsenal revealed itself. The galaxy had limited Earth's defensive fleet. It had never thought to question what humanity might build beyond those limits, or where those ships might wait. Final count? Marcus asked. Sarah's voice held barely contained satisfaction. 3,147 warships, Admiral. We matched the Kryn Dominion ship for ship. No, Marcus corrected quietly. We exceed them, because every single one of our ships is crewed by people who remember what the Kelrath did for us. The Kryn fight for conquest. We fight for the ones who gave us mercy when we needed it most. He pulled up the tactical overview. The Kelrath Union's 17 worlds were spread across 3 sectors, already being encircled by Kryn advance forces. The Dominion expected a massacre, a quick, brutal lesson to any species that might resist them. They had no idea what was coming. Commander Chen, activate the network. I want every human ship synchronized. Every captain briefed. Every crew ready? Yes, sir. Admiral, Sarah hesitated. My grandmother's speech has reached every human world. The response has been overwhelming. Marcus understood. For 50 years, humanity had played nice, followed the rules, limited its strength. Not out of weakness, but because the Kelrath had taught them something crucial. Sometimes the best weapon is the one your enemy doesn't know exists. Now the galaxy would see what that patience had built. Open a channel, Marcus ordered. All human vessels. All frequencies. Command encryption Delta 7. The communications web lit up. 3,000 captains waiting for his words. Men and women who'd trained for this moment, who'd kept the secret, who'd trusted that one day their purpose would be clear. This is Admiral Marcus Webb of the United Earth Systems, he began. 50 years ago, the Kelrath Union stood between humanity and predators who would have reduced us to servitude. They asked nothing in return, expected nothing. They simply believed that protecting the weak was the right thing to do. He paused, letting the weight of that history settle. Today, the Kryn Dominion threatens to annihilate the Kelrath. The Galactic Council has turned away. Every great power has calculated that the Kelrath aren't worth defending. They have forgotten something crucial, something humanity will now teach them. His voice hardened. You don't measure a civilization's worth by its economic output or strategic resources. You measure it by what it does when no one is watching, by whether it stands for the defenseless even when there's no profit in it. Across 3,000 ships, crews stood at attention. The Kelrath earned our loyalty when we had nothing to offer them. Now they'll see what that investment has grown into. We're not going to the Kelrath Union to fight a war. We're going there to end one. He looked at the tactical display, at the Kryn fleet spreading like a plague through Kelrath space. Operation Guardian Shield is now active. All fleets will proceed to designated rally points. We're not engaging the Kryn on their terms. We're going to dictate ours. First priority is civilian evacuation. Second priority is establishing defensive perimeters. Third priority? His voice dropped to something cold and final. Teaching the Kryn what happens when you threaten humanity's friends. He closed his eyes briefly, remembering a young Kelrath delegate's voice in the council chamber 5 decades ago. These terms violate the covenant of emerging species. We will not stand silent. The Kelrath stood for us when we were vulnerable, Admiral Webb said quietly. Now we stand for them, not because we have to, because we choose to, because that's what loyalty means. He opened his eyes. All ships, engage jump drives. The fleet moves in 30 minutes. Let's go remind the galaxy what happens when you show humanity compassion. The orders rippled out. Across human space, 3,000 warships prepared to move. Not to defend borders, not to protect resources, but to honor a debt 50 years old, a debt that had never been demanded but would be repaid in full. The Kryn Dominion had no idea that their invasion had just become their extinction event. The Galactic Council chamber, alarms began sounding. The same tracking systems that had shown humanity's retreat now displayed something else entirely. Ship signatures appearing across human space, thousands of them. Classifications that shouldn't exist. Weapons readings that violated 3 different limitation treaties. The Vraxian delegate stared at the displays in horror. This is impossible. The verification inspections, the limitation accords. Ambassador Hana Chen remained seated, perfectly calm. Oh, those treaties? We followed them exactly. Earth's defensive fleet never exceeded 400 registered vessels. Her smile was serene. You never asked about our unregistered ones. This is a violation of nothing, Hana interrupted. We promised to limit our defensive forces. We did everything else. She gestured at the display showing humanity's hidden armada. Insurance. Just in case someone made the mistake of threatening our friends. The Arbiter's voice was hollow. You've been building this fleet for 50 years. We've been maintaining it for 50 years, Hana corrected. We built it before we ever signed your treaties. We just never told you about it. The Kelrath taught us that wisdom. Keep your strength hidden until you need it. She stood, gathering her materials calmly. The galaxy had its chance to do the right thing. You all chose to turn away from the Kelrath. That's your choice. But don't expect humanity to make the same mistake. You're going to war with the Kryn Dominion, the Thaylen delegate whispered. They'll destroy you. Hana paused at the chamber door. No, they threatened our friends. Now they'll learn what that costs. She left the council in chaos, alarms still screaming as Earth's hidden fleets began their jump sequences. The galaxy had laughed when humanity recalled its ships. They weren't laughing anymore. The Kryn Third fleet arrived at Kelrath Prime expecting resistance. What they found instead was chaos of a different kind. Fleetmaster Vorin studied the tactical display with growing confusion. Kelrath Prime, the Union's capital world, home to 4 billion civilians, should have been frantically preparing defenses. Instead, the orbital space was filled with transport ships, hundreds of them, thousands, massive civilian haulers, cargo vessels, even retrofitted colony ships, all broadcasting human identification codes, all moving in perfect coordination, ferrying civilians from the planet's surface to massive carrier groups in high orbit. What are they doing? Vorin's tactical officer asked. Before anyone could answer, a transmission cut through their command frequencies. The voice was female, calm, and carried an accent Vorin didn't recognize. Kryn Third Fleet, this is Captain Rebecca Torres of the UES Sanctuary. You are hereby notified that Kelrath Prime is under humanitarian protection of the United Earth Systems. We are currently evacuating 4 billion civilians from the threatened zone. Any hostile action during this evacuation will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. Vorin's mandibles clicked in disbelief. Humanitarian protection? We are the Kryn Dominion. We don't care what you recognize, Torres interrupted. Her voice remained pleasant, almost conversational. We care about getting civilians to safety. You have 2 choices, Fleetmaster. You can wait patiently while we complete our work, or you can fire on evacuation transports and discover what humanity does to species that target non-combatants. You're bluffing. Our intelligence shows your intelligence is 50 years out of date, Torres said. But feel free to test that theory. Fire on one of our transports. Just one, please. I'd love to show my crew what happens next. Something in her tone made Vorin pause. He pulled up the tactical data again, this time looking more carefully at the ships surrounding Kelrath Prime. The transports were civilian vessels, yes. But escorting them were warships that made no sense. Dreadnought-class signatures. Carrier groups with fighter complements that exceeded anything in the Kryn arsenal. Point defense networks so dense they looked like solid walls on the tactical display. How many ships do they have here? Vorin asked quietly. At Kelrath Prime alone, 347 combat vessels, Fleetmaster. We number 200. Pull back to the outer system, Vorin ordered. Maintain observation distance. I need to contact High Command. His officers stared. Fleetmaster, our orders assumed the Kelrath would be alone. They're not. Vorin watched another wave of transports lift from the planet's surface, each one carrying tens of thousands of civilians. Humanity isn't defending the Kelrath. They're evacuating them, completely. The implications were staggering. The Kryn strategy relied on the Kelrath defending their population centers, tying down their forces to protect civilians. But if humanity removed the civilians entirely, Vorin opened a priority channel to War Chancellor Throck. High Command, we have a situation. The evacuation of the Kelrath Union was the largest humanitarian operation in galactic history. In 72 hours, humanity moved 16 billion Kelrath civilians from 17 worlds to secured locations in human space. Not gradually, not partially, completely. Every man, woman, and child, every elder and infant, loaded onto transports with whatever possessions they could carry, guided by calm human logistics coordinators who drilled for this exact scenario for 50 years. On Kelrath Secondary, Commander James Park oversaw the evacuation, with the efficiency of someone conducting a well-rehearsed operation. Because it was, humanity had run the simulations 10,000 times, refined the protocols, trained the crews. They'd known this day might come. Last transport wave launching in 20 minutes, his operations officer reported. We'll have full planetary evacuation complete in 3 hours. James nodded, watching the endless stream of Kelrath families boarding the massive carrier Promise Kept. Many were crying. Not from fear, from disbelief. From the overwhelming reality that strangers were saving them when their own galaxy had turned away. An elderly Kelrath male approached James, translator device clutched in trembling hands. Why? He asked simply. Why do this for us? James smiled. 50 years ago, you helped humanity when we needed it. Now it's our turn. But this... The elderly Kelrath gestured at the armada of ships, the thousands of humans working tirelessly. This must cost billions, risk thousands of lives. All for a debt we never expected repaid? That's what makes it worth repaying, James said quietly. You never asked for this. You just did what was right. Now we're doing the same. The Kelrath's eyes filled with tears. The galaxy will turn against you for this. Let them. James's voice was steel wrapped in compassion. We learned something important from you. Some debts aren't paid in currency or trade agreements. They're paid in action, in standing up when it matters, in remembering who stood for you when you were weak. He gestured to the transport. Please, sir, get your family to safety. We've got this. As the elderly Kelrath boarded, James received an update from the fleet network. All 17 Kelrath worlds were experiencing similar evacuations. Kryn forces watched from the outer systems, paralyzed by confusion and the sheer scale of humanity's response. They'd expected war. They'd gotten something they had no doctrine for. An enemy that cared more about saving civilians than holding territory. Commander, his tactical officer called. Kryn 4th Fleet is making moves toward the inner system. They're trying to interfere with the evacuation. James's expression didn't change. Deploy the deterrent. 200 kilometers away, the UES Indomitable received its orders. A destroyer-class vessel, small by dreadnought standards but carrying something the Kryn had never encountered. A jump drive configured for combat velocities. Captain Michael Chen, no relation to Hana, though they shared the same determination, reviewed his orders one final time. The message was simple. Make them understand. All hands, this is the captain, he announced. We've been given a rare honor. The Kryn 4th Fleet is threatening our evacuation operations. They need to learn a lesson. We're going to teach it. His crew had trained for this, volunteered for this. The Indomitable was a demonstration vessel, designed for a single terrifying purpose. Jump drive to combat configuration, Michael ordered. Target the Kryn flagship. Calculate intercept trajectory. His navigator's hands trembled slightly, not from fear but from anticipation. Trajectory calculated, Captain. Jump in 30 seconds will bring us to point-blank range at 98% light speed. The Kryn flagship mass is 80,000 tons, the weapons officer added. At our impact velocity, the kinetic energy will be sufficient, Michael finished. Engineering, confirm crew evacuation to life pods. All non-essential crew evacuated, sir. Core team ready. Michael looked at his bridge crew, 15 volunteers who'd signed up for a suicide mission, not because they wanted to die, but because they wanted the galaxy to understand what happened when you threatened human rescue operations. The Kelrath saved us 50 years ago, Michael said quietly. Today we repay that debt. What we're about to do will be remembered for centuries, not as an act of war, as a statement. You don't threaten civilians under humanity's protection. He opened a transmission to the Kryn Fourth Fleet. Kryn vessels, this is Captain Michael Chen of the UES Indomitable. You are interfering with humanitarian evacuation operations. You have 30 seconds to alter course. If you continue toward the civilian transports, we will demonstrate why that's a mistake. The Kryn response was predictable. Mocking laughter. Contemptuous dismissal. They outnumbered the Indomitable 200 to 1. Michael counted down the 30 seconds. The Kryn fleet maintained course, weapons charging, clearly intending to scatter the evacuation. Time's up, Michael said softly. All hands abandon ship. Jump in 10 seconds. The bridge crew launched in life pods, programmed to immediate jump to the nearest human carrier. Michael stayed alone on the bridge, hands steady on the controls. For the Kelrath, he whispered. For the ones who showed us mercy. He engaged the jump drive. The UES Indomitable vanished from normal space. 0.03 seconds later, it reappeared directly ahead of the Kryn flagship Dominance, traveling at 98% of the speed of light. There was no time for shields. No time for evasive maneuvers. No time for anything except a single instant of horrified realization before 5,000 tons of human destroyer impacted 80,000 tons of Kryn warship at relativistic velocity. The resulting explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. The Dominance didn't just explode, it vaporized. The shockwave tore through 6 nearby Kryn vessels, ripping them apart. Debris traveling at significant fractions of light speed punched through shields and hulls like they were paper. In 3 seconds, humanity had reduced the Kryn Fourth Fleet from 200 ships to 193. In the command sphere of the remaining Kryn flagship, Fleetmaster Korath stared at the tactical display in absolute silence. The readouts made no sense. The energy signatures were impossible. A single destroyer had just annihilated the pride of the Kryn fleet through pure kinetic force. A transmission came through, same calm female voice from before. Captain Torres, that was your warning shot, she said pleasantly. The Indomitable was a demonstration. We have 47 more vessels configured for the same purpose and crews eager to use them. Would you like to continue interfering with our evacuation, or would you prefer to remain at a safe distance while we finish our work? Korath's mandibles wouldn't function properly. His intelligence briefing said humanity was peaceful. Diplomatic, soft, those briefings were wrong. We will maintain position, he managed. Excellent choice, Torres replied. And Fleetmaster? Tell your War Chancellor something for us. The Kelrath protected humanity when we were weak. Now we're showing the galaxy what that kindness bought them. Not servants, guardians. And we're just getting started. The transmission ended. Across the Kryn Fourth Fleet, officers stared at each other in shock. A single human destroyer had eliminated their flagship and 6 escort vessels. Not through superior firepower or advanced weapons, through raw, terrifying physics and the willingness to use it. And humanity claimed to have 47 more ships ready to do the same thing. On Kelrath Secondary, Commander Park received confirmation that the Kryn fleet was withdrawing to safe distance. The evacuation continued unimpeded. 16 billion civilians would reach safety. He thought of Captain Michael Chen and his volunteer crew, now safely recovered by their carrier group, their demonstration complete. They'd known they'd survive, the life pods were programmed for automatic jump escape. But they'd also known the galaxy would think they'd died in the attack. Let them think it. Let the Kryn believe humanity would sacrifice entire crews just to protect civilians. The fear was more valuable than the truth. Commander, his operations officer said quietly, the Galactic Council is broadcasting on all frequencies. They're demanding humanity cease operations immediately. James smiled. Tell them we'll cease operations when every Kelrath civilian is safe. Not before. And if they threaten sanctions, let them. James watched another transport full of grateful Kelrath families lift toward safety. The Kelrath didn't ask for council permission to help us. We're not asking for council permission to help them,